December 7th, 1941. After World War I, Japan had become one of the most powerful nations in Asia. But behind the rising empire, a crisis was growing. Japan's problem. Japan's population was exploding, but its islands had almost no natural resources. No oil, very little iron, almost none of the raw materials needed to fuel a modern military. Inside a military meeting room, our empire grew stronger, but our resources grew weaker. Another officer responds, "If Japan is to survive, we must look beyond our islands." The decision to expand. To Japan's military leaders, the solution was clear. If the resources did not exist at home, they would take them abroad. A general pointing at a map, Manchuria. In 1931, Japanese forces invaded Manchuria, and it was only the beginning. War in China. 6 years later, Japan launched a full-scale invasion of China. The war was brutal. Cities burned. Millions died. In Nanjing, one of the most horrific atrocities of the war shocked the world. America reacts. As Japan's empire expanded, the United States grew increasingly alarmed. American official speaking, "Japan's expansion threatens the entire Pacific." America supported China and decided to strike back economically. The oil embargo. In 1940, the United States imposed powerful sanctions. And then came the most devastating move of all, an oil embargo. Japan depended on American oil for nearly 80% of its fuel. Inside Japan's war room, "Without oil, our Navy will be powerless within months." The final choice. Japan now faced an impossible decision: withdraw from China and abandon its empire, or go to war with the United States. And the decision they made would change the world forever. The U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. The secret mission. In complete secrecy, 6 Japanese aircraft carriers crossed the Pacific Ocean. On their decks were more than 350 aircraft, fighters, bombers, and torpedo planes. Pilot, "Today, we strike first." The attack began. As the sun began to rise over the Pacific, the aircraft engines roared to life. At dawn, they launched.
Bombs exploded across the harbor.
In minutes, the quiet harbor became a battlefield of fire and smoke. USS Arizona. Then came the most devastating moment. The battleship USS Arizona erupted in a massive explosion, tearing the ship apart. Sailors rushed to anti-aircraft guns, fighting back as best they could, but many ships had been caught completely unprepared. The aftermath. When the attack finally ended 2 hours later, more than 2,400 Americans were dead. 8 battleships had been damaged or destroyed, and nearly 200 aircraft lay wrecked. America responds. The next day, President Franklin Roosevelt addressed the nation. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. Within hours, the United States declared war on Japan. Soon after, Japan's allies, Germany and Italy, declared war on the United States, and in a single moment, World War II became a truly global. In just a few months, Japanese forces swept across Asia and the Pacific. The Philippines fell, Hong Kong was captured, and the powerful British stronghold of Singapore collapsed. Soon, Indonesia, Malaysia, and vast regions of Southeast Asia were under Japanese control. By early 1942, Japan controlled one of the largest empires in the world. But while Japan expanded, the United States was preparing its response, and the fight for the Pacific was only just beginning. In June 1942, Japan prepared another bold strike. Their target, Midway Atoll, a small island in the Pacific. But Japan didn't know one crucial secret. American code breakers had already cracked their communications. The United States knew the attack was coming. When the battle began, Both sides launched aircraft across the Pacific skies, but at a critical moment, American dive bombers found the Japanese fleet. They plunged toward their targets. Within minutes, 4 Japanese aircraft carriers were burning. Japan lost some of its most powerful ships and many of its best pilots. The Battle of Midway became one of the most decisive naval battles in history, and from that moment on, the balance of power in the Pacific began to shift. The United States adopted a bold new strategy in the Pacific. It was called island hopping. Instead of attacking every Japanese island across the vast Pacific Ocean, American forces focused only on the most important ones. The goal was simple: capture key strategic islands and use them as stepping stones toward Japan. It became the largest naval battle in human history. Hundreds of warships and aircraft clashed across the Pacific Ocean. But the battle also introduced a terrifying new tactic: kamikaze attacks. Japanese pilots carried out suicide missions, deliberately crashing their aircraft into American warships. Planes packed with explosives dove straight toward their targets. For American sailors below, there was often no warning, only the sudden roar of an engine and then the explosion. The Pacific War had entered one of its most desperate and deadly phases. By 1945, the war had reached Japan's doorstep. The United States invaded Iwo Jima. The battle lasted over a month. Nearly every Japanese soldier fought to the death. Soon after came the Battle of Okinawa. It became the bloodiest battle of the Pacific War. More than 200,000 people died. American leaders feared that invading mainland Japan could kill millions. A secret weapon was about to change everything. During the war, the United States had been secretly developing nuclear weapons through the Manhattan Project. On August 6, 1945, an American bomber dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. The explosion destroyed the city instantly. 3 days later, a second atomic bomb struck Nagasaki. At the same time, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan and invaded Japanese-held territory. Japan now faced total defeat. In 1945, Hirohito, the Emperor of Japan, made a decision that would change history. In a rare and unprecedented moment, he spoke directly to his people over the radio. For the first time in history, the Japanese people heard the voice of their emperor. His message was clear:
the unendurable,
Japan would surrender.
and suffer
The war that
what
had
is
consumed the
unsufferable.
world for years was finally coming to an end.
War situation.
Weeks later, on September 2nd, 1945, the final chapter unfolded. Aboard the battleship USS Missouri, BB-63, anchored in Tokyo Bay, Allied and Japanese representatives gathered in silence. At the center stood Douglas MacArthur, the Supreme Allied Commander. The moment was heavy with history. Pens met paper, signatures were written, and just like that, the deadliest conflict in human history came to an end. World War II was finally over. After years of destruction, loss, and sacrifice, the world could begin to breathe again.